to a Steeler Thoughts Chief Feelings film review. I'm Ajay. And in this video we'll be reviewing the Chiefs' 19-17 Black Friday football victory against the Raiders. We'll be covering a lot of narratives from this game and breaking down some plays, including the final snap of the Raiders offense, the controversial play that resulted in an illegal shift penalty and a fumble recovery for the Chiefs. As always, we have this video broken into chapters, so you can either use the scroll bar or the links in the description to find a part of this video that you'd be interested in watching. Or if you want to watch the whole thing, you can stick with us right here. Thanks to all of you who follow along here on the YouTube channel, or for those of you who download the podcast wherever you get podcasts, or for those of you who follow us on social media at STCF715. We're on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. We try to post clips about what we're doing all week. And on Steelers and Chiefs game days, we are on Twitter during the game and after the game to talk about the respective games. So thanks to all of you who follow along, however you follow along. But let's get into this film review. Let's talk Travis Kelce. So I have been on record on our podcast saying a couple things about Kelce. First of all, I don't believe that he's going to retire this year. I think that's been kind of thrown around. He signed this 2-year deal, and I'm on record on our podcast saying that I think for sure he's going to play next year. And then starting next year, it'll be kind of year to year. I think starting next year, it'll be fair to speculate every year whether he's going to play the subsequent year. But I think this year, I am quite confident he will be back next year. So let's push the speculation until next year. The other thing that I've been on record saying is I think that the reports of his demise have been premature. I don't think Travis Kelce is going to be the 1,200-yard, 8-touchdown guy that he had been up until last year. But I do think he could very well be an 800-yard, 5-touchdown guy this year and for future years. That's another thing that I had said earlier this year. And for those paying attention, he's on pace actually for 900 yards this year. So he's no slouch this season. He had a little bit of a slow start, but has actually been on a good pace since then. And on that note, Travis Kelce still does well against single coverage. And the Raiders actually came out in this game trying to cover him with one man for a while in the first quarter and a little into the second quarter. And Travis Kelce made him pay. So let's go over a couple of those plays showing what Travis Kelce can do if you decide to just cover him with one man. So this first play that we're going to go over is from the first quarter. There are about 13 minutes to go in the first quarter, and the Chiefs have a third down and about 8. So what ends up happening on this play is we get an offsides penalty. And 44 is very close to being lined up offsides even from the snap. But then what happens at the snap is Robert Spillane in here flinches, and that causes 44 to jump. So you can see it here. There's the flinch from Spillane, and there's the jump offsides. So this ends up being a free play. Now this literally happens right in front of Travis Kelce. And so he's a little slow out of the gates because he is distracted by the offsides jump. And what the Raiders try to do in this situation, they send a 5-man pressure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And they play cover one man. So they're manned up here, manned up here. They've got a deep safety over the top, and Kelce is manned up here. So Kelce, seeing the offsides penalty, takes a minute. He actually looks over, if you look at the official, and notices the flag being thrown. So he knows. I stopped it when he's not actually looking over there, but you can see him looking in that direction there. He knows this is a free play. So what he ends up doing is he just kind of takes a skip and settles out here in the middle of the field, and Mahomes, who's navigating traffic in the pocket, finds him, and Kelce's able to box out Meyers and make a catch. So, you cover him with one guy, it's just too difficult. You have to give him a little bit of space because Kelce is so good at reading your leverage here. Meyers clearly has outside leverage, so Kelce is going to break inside. And he's so strong at the catch point. I know he's had a couple uncharacteristic drops this year, including in this game. But he's strong at the catch point. You give him a little bit of room, he's going to make that catch. And he gets a big first down here on third down. See it again here from this perspective. There's the jump off sides right there, right in front of Kelce, literally. And so Kelce, you see him take a peek over at the official who's throwing the flag. He then comes up, and as Mahomes navigates traffic, he gets this throw off. Kelce uses his body to shield the ball. Meyers actually swings down, but Kelce with strong hands hangs on, makes the catch for a big first down. So here's play one of Kelce beating man coverage, single coverage early in the game, and making the Raiders pay. Let's jump ahead now to 5:55 to go in the first quarter. The Chiefs have a 2nd and 8, and they're coming out with an empty backfield, even though they have 12 personnel. They actually have the running back Kareem Hunt here, and then the 2 tight ends lined up over here. And the Raiders, again, go with a similar play from the last play we just saw. They run cover one man. So this is your deep safety right here. This is going to be your robber to the middle. Everybody else is manned up. Now, this isn't pure single coverage on Kelce this time, because they're actually going to take the robber and come underneath Kelce and kind of use him as almost a double team for Kelce. Unfortunately for the Raiders, Kelce isn't running a route to the middle. He actually runs a whip route. So he comes to the middle and then comes back out. So the safety driving down isn't really able to do much of a double. It ends up being a practical single coverage. So here comes Kelce coming in, does a hard in cut on the whip route, and then comes back out, completely leaving his man. Timing is perfect with Mahomes. And again, Kelce gets a big gain, big first down, punishing the Raiders for essentially covering him with one. Now, they tried to get a double, but again, this is where the Chiefs and Kelce in particular know the coverage so well. In this situation with this route combination, you have your guy Kareem Hunt having a second level deeper route. Inside, you have a clear out coming up the middle. So the robber is almost always going to be in the middle of the field. This part of the field will be vacant. So against a cover one man look, having Kelce come in and out is a good route choice and makes it more likely that a double is difficult and he ends up being single covered, which is what happened here. And again, if you allow Kelce man-to-man coverage, even at his, when people talk about him being in decline, even at this level, Kelce will punish man coverage, especially from a linebacker like Divine Diablo. So here we can see from the end zone camera, you can see Kelce's foot as he plants his foot on that in cut and then comes back out. Easy pickings for Kelce when he's manned up like that. Now we jump ahead to 3:37 to go in the first quarter. The Chiefs have a 1st and 20 after a penalty. And they come out lined up in 12 personnel. They've got the running back is Pacheco, and they're Noah Gray, Travis Kelce, the tight ends, and Worthy and Hopkins are the wide receivers. Again, the Raiders run a cover one man. This time they don't even have the underneath robber defender because they blitz Spillane. So what they have here is they've got one deep safety, then they've got man-to-man here, man-to-man here, man-to-man here, man-to-man here. That's it. And again, playing Kelce, single coverage, man-to-man, and Kelce made them pay. If you have anybody in your life that's telling you that Kelce can't do it anymore, Kelce's too old, he can't get open, just show them this clip because this is a masterclass in route running. Watch how Kelce approaches his defender. And I want you to pay attention initially to the way that the defender is playing this play. Look at his body position. He's slanted here. If you ever played basketball and you're trying to force somebody to the right or to the left and you stand in this position, this is in football like this. It's called having outside leverage. Basically, you're leaning this way, allowing Kelce to go in, but you are refusing to be beaten outside. So he's setting up to the outside of Kelce's route, not letting him go outside whatsoever, giving him the inside. Kelce, if you notice, takes it initially. He's coming inside of the defender, but he wants to run an out route. He wants to get outside. Not easy to do when somebody's playing outside leverage, trying to force you inside, prevent you from coming back outside. So the corner is sitting outside of Kelce. Kelce pushes inside, and then watch the steps here. Hard pivot. This first step with his left foot is important. He's running in, hits this with his left foot hard as if he's coming inside. And look what happens. The corner is having to commit. Then Kelce, as he's doing in this still, hits that right foot very hard and pivots. And he gets outside of this guy whose entire setup right here is to prevent him from going outside, to try to funnel him inside. This is just quality route running from Kelce. Hard, come back in, get to the outside, beat him. And he beat him so bad that the defender, in trying to catch up, fell down, allowing Kelce even more yards after the catch. Which is funny on this play because, I told you that I've been saying that Kelce's demise has been exaggerated and that he's still playing well. But the one area that I have conceded that I feel like has taken a big dip this year is his yards after the catch. He's just not the same yards after the catch guy that he used to be. This is a guy that up until last year had at least 12 yards per reception every single year. Last year it dropped to something like 10.6, I think, and this year it's 8.5 yards per catch. So that is one area where he has dipped a little bit, but he ran this route so well. Again, with corner with outside leverage, he hits it so hard coming in. He gets the corner to overcommit to the inside because he's sold that that's where he's going, and he still beats him outside. The corner has to work so hard to catch up that he falls down. Kelce actually gets pretty good yards after the catch, but it still kind of follows the problem that Kelce has that he didn't have before. Is the first guy always brings him down, though, it seems. It's very hard for him to break tackles. He's still smooth in the open field, but he's not really wiggling by guys, and he's definitely not breaking tackles anymore. However, nice to see him get some yards after the catch on this play, which really showed overall this play that Kelce's still a force to be reckoned with if you cover him single coverage. And a lot of that is due to his route running. You can see that cut right here. Look at the corner as he's coming in, how much the corner has to start moving over because he's worried about Kelce's break inside. And then he cuts back out, crosses his face. Look at that corner trying to catch up with him. No chance. Big first down. Kelce making people pay for covering him in single coverage. And Kelce knows that he's not that much of a yards after the catch guy anymore, too. Check out this play with 4:12 to go in the second quarter. The Chiefs have a 3rd and 10 at the Raiders' 22-yard line. This time, Kelce isn't quite covered single coverage because this isn't man coverage. The Chiefs actually have him in initially blocking and then releasing, but the Raiders are playing a zone. And so they've got him chip and then release. You have Spillane kind of looking at him initially, but then dropping off into an underneath zone because it's 3rd and 10. Here's the first down marker, and they feel pretty confident that they can corral anything underneath. Kelce does a good job finding a little bit of a gap in the zone as, you have some underneath, some over the top routes drawing defenders a little deeper. Whereas like Hopkins is coming across and is a little shallower, so his defender would be a little closer. Watson's running a little deeper, so going and sitting underneath his route makes more sense. And Worthy also is coming out a little deeper. So Kelce comes out here and gets the catch, which the Raiders in this case were willing to give up. Like I said, not much of a yards after the catch guy. They just want to prevent the first down. But Kelce laterals it here to Samaje Perine, who is able to take advantage of the fact that the one underneath defender in the area collapsed on Kelce, giving Perine a window to go get the first down. This is actually the second time that Kelce has lateraled to Pirine in a similar situation. Same side of the field, same idea. Pirine coming out of the flat. Kelce just flips it over to him, and he gets the first down. I don't think it's a coincidence that Kelce has been doing more of this lateraling in the last 3 seasons, as he probably realizes that he is not as much of a threat to break a tackle or make a man miss to get that first down. And so he can, I think Kent Swanson of Kansas City Sports Network had tweeted out that someone around him had said that Kelce was outsourcing his yards after the catch. Let somebody else take care of it, mainly because Kelce isn't quite the yards after the catch guy he used to be. But another big play for Kelce, giving the Chiefs a first down on a drive that they would ultimately end up scoring a touchdown on. Here it is again. He doesn't feel confident about his ability to get the first down, but he feels pretty good about Pirine's once he takes away the underneath defender, and the Chiefs get a big first down there. The chemistry between Patrick Mahomes and DeAndre Hopkins is really developing, and it's getting to a point that if it keeps along this trajectory, it might be something very scary come the stretch run and playoff time. This Black Friday game against the Raiders had some good examples of how the two are developing trust and how they're getting on the same page. There are obviously certain situations where plays are dialed up specifically for Hopkins. He's the main read, or he's the guy that they're looking for. But to me, the really telling situations are the ones where Hopkins is single covered and Mahomes throws balls that he just trusts Hopkins to go and get. It's not so much that Hopkins is open, it's that Mahomes trusts that he'll be able to fight off a defender and make a play. And those are not really throws that Mahomes has made through his career. He's actually a very judicious passer usually, and he tends to throw to guys who are open, guys who get themselves open, or he tries to throw people open. But he doesn't do a lot of jump balls. He doesn't do a lot of contested throws. And the fact that he's starting to trust Hopkins and that Hopkins is coming through on some of these plays is a great sign for Chiefs fans. So let's start looking at the Mahomes-Hopkins connection with this play here around 11 minutes to go in the first quarter. The Chiefs facing a 2nd and 10 at the Raiders' 33-yard line. The Chiefs come out here in 11 personnel. They've got their one running back, Pacheco, and their tight end, Travis Kelce. And then they have Xavier Worthy, Juju Smith-Schuster, and DeAndre Hopkins out here. Now, the Raiders, as they did most of this game, play fairly aggressive coverage. They're playing man here. And everybody is just singled up. This actually ends up being a 0 blitz. And you can see every receiver is manned up, and there's no safety over the top. And so this is just about finding a quick pass for Mahomes to beat the blitz. And he has Hopkins going deep. And look at where they are when Mahomes makes this throw. This is when Mahomes decides to throw it. He's just trusting Hopkins to go win. There's nothing special about this situation. Hopkins isn't open yet. Kelce is open. And the fact that Mahomes' first look is over to Hopkins is also telling. Look, he's not even, if you look at his eyes, he goes straight over here. He's not looking at Kelce at all on this play. And Mahomes tosses it up to Hopkins, who does a great job bringing this ball in, ultimately not able to corral it. But he gets a pass interference call on Jack Jones for his physical coverage without looking at the ball. I believed watching this play that what ultimately got the call was Jones, it's hard to see from this view, but he actually grabbed the back of Hopkins' jersey for a period when the ball was in the air, and I think that's what got the call. If not, the other thing, there was some hand fighting where, that seemed a little mutual to me. Hopkins tried to push, and Jack Jones grabbed his arm. I don't know if that's what was called, but in any case, a very physical play in which the corner is not turning his head frequently, if not always, but frequently results in pass interference, and it did here. We can see it again from the end zone view. Watch this. The 0 blitz comes in, and Mahomes looking at Hopkins immediately. He's got a free rusher. He just throws it up and trusts Hopkins to make the play. You can see the very end. Unfortunately, we don't get the full view, but you can see the end of the jersey tug I was talking about from Jack Jones. at the very end of that, his hand's coming off when we don't get to see the full thing, but I think that's what was called probably. But Hopkins really, I think the most amazing part of this play is Hopkins actually was like, he would make this catch. This wasn't a drop or anything. You can't see it from this view, but Jack Jones actually gets his hand on the ball and knocks it out. Like, otherwise Hopkins would have taken this one-handed and brought this in. And let's actually look at one of the broadcast replays so you can see what a phenomenal job this was from DeAndre Hopkins. He really would have made this catch. Here's the broadcast replay of this catch attempt by DeAndre Hopkins. So you can see the ball coming in, and Hopkins snags it with just one hand right here. And then I want you to watch the right hand of Jack Jones right behind the ball here. And Jones right there swipes over the ball and gets just the tip of the ball, the nose of the ball right there. He's able to knock it out and cause an incomplete pass. Hopkins would have caught this pass, which is just incredible. And Jack Jones with an awesome pass breakup. I mean, this is high-level play from both of them. I can't believe Hopkins controlled this ball, and I almost more can't believe that Jack Jones was able to reach in and look at that, just swipe it off his hand like that and force the incompletion. What a high-level play, but the Chiefs ended up getting a first down due to the pass interference. So on this next play, the Chiefs are in a 2-minute drill, and they need to make something happen quick. They're only 25 seconds to go in the half, and they have the ball on their 16-yard line. They come out with a bunch set in 12 personnel. So one running back and 2 tight ends makes it 12 personnel. They've got the bunch over here with the 2 tight ends and Xavier Worthy. And on this side, they've got DeAndre Hopkins isolated. Now, the Raiders kind of run a man-match combination with one high safety. So Hopkins is single covered here. They've got one safety who's responsible deep, and they're kind of running man-match principles here. But essentially everybody gets manned up after they decide who's taking whom. But Mahomes knows he's got Hopkins one-on-one, and they run a double move. So they have Hopkins do a stutter right here because they know that Jack Jones is a very aggressive corner. If you'll remember last year in the Christmas game, he actually intercepted an out route to Justin Watson and returned it for a touchdown. So he likes to jump these kinds of routes, and the Chiefs know that. So they have Hopkins do a stutter and Mahomes does a little pump fake, and they get Jones to jump, and then Hopkins runs right by him. Mahomes hits him for a big gain of 34 yards down to midfield. You can see it from over here. Pump fake and go. Big gain for the Chiefs. And I think it's really bracing that Hopkins is being used in these situations, in high leverage situations where Mahomes needs something to happen. And he's being used so much down the field, which is nice. It's not necessarily what we expected, but he's proven very effective on these throws with a lot of air yards, which is helping to open up this offense in Kansas City. And as the trust develops even more between Mahomes and Hopkins, this should just create more opportunities overall for the Chiefs offense later this year and hopefully into the playoffs. Now let's jump ahead to 4:22 to go in the third quarter, and the Chiefs have a 3rd and 10 right about their own 45-yard line. We have another situation where we've got a bunch set and we've got DeAndre Hopkins isolated on the other side. This time it's 11 personnel. 1 running back, Samaje Perine, 1 tight end is Travis Kelce. Your 3 wide receivers are Xavier Worthy, Juju Smith-Schuster, and DeAndre Hopkins. The Raiders run a cover 1 man. They continued with their aggressive man coverages, this time rolling down the safety here. They have 1 deep safety and they're manning up everybody. But the safety rolled down as a robber is essentially an extra set of eyes on Kelce. If you look, they end up kind of inside-outside in Kelce here. In another part of this week's film review, we talked about how early in the game, particularly in the first quarter, but a little bit in the second, the Raiders were trying to guard Kelce with just 1 guy, and Kelce was making them pay. Well, now it's the third quarter. Look at that. 2 guys on Kelce. the Raiders adjusted to stop letting him beat them. But this is about Hopkins, and here's Hopkins on the backside of this formation isolated. He runs an out and up, and Mahomes, again, look at where Hopkins is when he throws this ball. This is, again, a trust play. Hopkins is not wide open. He's trusting Hopkins to make this catch. And this actually is back shoulder placement of the ball. And the key to a back shoulder throw, essentially, why do you throw a back shoulder throw? You throw a back shoulder throw in a situation where it's not clear that your receiver is going to get a step on the corner and be open to throw it over the top, right? So if you're not in a position where you're thinking that can happen, you can throw it to the receiver's back shoulder and have them kind of turn around and catch it. The big key to throwing this pass is the corner can't be looking. If the corner turns his head, they're always in very good position to try to intercept this pass. Whether they are on top of the receiver or not, they can come back to the ball. And it's a very dangerous throw. In our Steelers-Cowboys film review, Dak Prescott threw a back shoulder throw when Dante Jackson was looking right at him, and Dante Jackson very easily intercepted it. So the big key here is the corner can't be looking, which is the case here. But it's a real trust route, and Mahomes honestly doesn't throw them very much. It was a big deal a couple years ago when he threw a couple to Juju Smith-Schuster, because it's just not something that he's done a lot in his career. It's a testament to his trust in DeAndre Hopkins that he throws it back shoulder here. This isn't anything but a ball that Hopkins has to go up and get, and he trusts him to go get it, pulls it down for a big gain on third down. You can get a little better view of the throw coming into Hopkins from the end zone cam. And look at this throw right into Hopkins, aided by the fact that the defender has no idea where the ball is. But these are chemistry throws. These are trust throws. These are throws where you believe that in a contested situation where it isn't a wide open player, the player is going to have to make a play. You're trusting him to make a play. And if that continues to develop between Mahomes and Hopkins, this could get very interesting. Now we jump to the fourth quarter. It's about 12:48 to go in the fourth quarter, and this is a big drive for the Chiefs. It's the first time they're trailing in the game. The Raiders just came and scored a big touchdown to go up 17-16, so the Chiefs desperately needed points on this drive. They're facing a 2nd down and 10 right around their own 44-yard line, and they dial up a shot play to Hopkins. So it's not clear initially, maybe calling it a shot play that they dialed up is a little premature because it's not clear that this was actually intended to be a downfield play, but it turned into one. What they do end up doing is they end up motioning the pocket. They end up moving the pocket to try to help mitigate the Raiders' pass rush, which had really been dominating their offensive tackles, particularly Wanya Morris. And so they move the pocket over to the left, and they've got a kind of mesh concept here with crossers going over each other. And Mahomes is looking for Hopkins on the right side. And he directs, if you notice, he directs Hopkins. This is why I'm saying it may not have been called as a shot play. He directs Hopkins to turn this upfield, and Hopkins is looking back. And so right there you can see Mahomes saying, take it upfield, go upfield. So this might have just been like a crosser, but at this point Mahomes says, take it up, there's nobody there. So Hopkins wheels around and Mahomes throws it, probably a little earlier than he wanted to because Max Crosby is coming down on him. So he ends up throwing it more in the back shoulder area again, which in this case ultimately probably wasn't necessary. It probably would have been better to put it out in front. But Mahomes didn't know that when he was throwing it because, he had to throw it a little earlier than he probably wanted to. And so he ends up underthrowing the ball a little bit and more in the back shoulder area. The defensive back never gets his head turned and runs right through Hopkins, drawing an obvious pass interference penalty. This is one of those situations, again, Mahomes doesn't do this very often, but we've talked about it on our evaluations of Russell Wilson, who tends to do this a lot. There's some value in underthrowing a deep pass a little bit. A lot of times it's easier for the receiver to come back to the ball because defenders are often playing catch up and are not looking back at the ball. And it increases the chance of a pass interference play when a defender's catching up to the ball, because if they don't know the ball's underthrown and the receiver's trying to come back to the ball, a lot of times you'll get them to run right through the receiver like the defender did here and draw a pass interference penalty. We can see it here from the end zone view. They move the pocket. Mahomes looking for the throwback right here. He's directing Hopkins to go downfield, and he lets it loose. Hopkins stops for the back shoulder. The defender runs through him. Again, a lot of trust here. Mahomes ad-libbing and throwing it up there, not knowing whether Hopkins is going to end up getting deeper or whether this will be contested. It ends up being back shoulder, so it is contested, but he trusts DeAndre Hopkins. This game showed a lot of instances where Patrick Mahomes had a lot of trust in DeAndre Hopkins. This is later on the same drive. Again, remember, Chiefs trailing in the fourth quarter, 17-16. Now there's 12:30 to go in the fourth quarter. They're at 2nd and 20 because of 2 procedural penalties. So again, they really need a bit of a chunk play here to make this 3rd and manageable. And who's the guy they go to? It's DeAndre Hopkins. What they're lined up in here, they're lined up in 11 personnel. They've got 1 running back, 1 tight end, and their 3 wide receivers are all lined up over here. And they're kind of run a hybrid between like a levels concept and a 3 verts. So they're going to have Worthy, Watson, and Hopkins all kind of run these like over routes on different levels, taking up the defense. And the Raiders are in cover 1 man again. Here's your deep safety underneath. 1, 2, 3, 4, all manned up. And so again, on this play, 2nd and 20, we need yardage to make this manageable for 3rd down and to get into field goal range. DeAndre Hopkins is the primary read on the play. He's running kind of underneath over route. And once he gets past the underneath safety, the robber, Mahomes goes right to him. If you look, Mahomes is reading Hopkins all the way. He's the primary read here. He's just waiting for him to get open. And Hopkins gets a lot of that yardage back, creating a 3rd and 5 situation. The Chiefs are clearly looking to Hopkins to make big plays for this team, and they're trusting him in situations where he has to go and win. Let's see how this develops through the season, but the fact that they're at this point with Hopkins coming onto the team mid-season is extremely good prognostically for where they will be when it comes winning time in the playoffs. Now let's talk sliding doors moments from the Chiefs-Raiders game. The Chiefs' offense looked really good at times. They were able to get into the red zone 5 times, really appearing to move the ball up and down the field during parts of this game. Mahomes threw for over 300 yards, but they ended up only scoring 19 points, and they only won this game by 2. So as you can probably imagine, there were a lot of plays that they left on the field. A lot of times where had they just done something differently, they might have had more points and they might have won this game a little more comfortably. So in this segment, let's look at several of these plays to see what could have been different for the Chiefs offense had they made a couple more things happen. And we'll start here on the first drive of the game. They're 10-13 to go in the first quarter. The Chiefs have marched it down the field, and they now have a 3rd and 4 at the Raiders' 7-yard line. The Chiefs come out in 11 personnel. They have 1 running back, Samaje Perine, and 1 tight end is Travis Kelce. 3 wide receivers are Xavier Worthy, Juju Smith-Schuster, and then over here isolated is DeAndre Hopkins. So now I want you to watch DeAndre Hopkins and Jack Jones at the snap here, or pre-snap, I should say. The Chiefs appear to be trying to isolate Hopkins and get him to run a route. So they first move Samaje Perine over to the left. And I want you to notice Jack Jones's feet. So right now, he's standing a little bit inside of DeAndre Hopkins. He's got inside leverage, basically understanding that he probably won't have help to the middle of the field. So he's trying to prevent Hopkins from going inside and running a slant. Well, after Pirine moved from right to left, watch Jack Jones's feet right here. He steps back outside and goes like head up right over Hopkins. Well, the Chiefs run another motion. They send Pirine out wide. And then watch Jack Jones again right here. He steps right back inside right before the snap. So again, he's got inside leverage, anticipating an inside route. Well, unfortunately for the Chiefs, that's exactly what they're running. They have isolated Hopkins. They sent Pirine out to try to remove more underneath defenders. And what they want to do is just run a slant to Hopkins right here to try to get a first down or a touchdown. But Jack Jones, right before the snap, moved right inside to get in his way for that. Hopkins has to try to run the slant right through Jones, and Jones does a great job of being physical here and preventing a completion, getting in the way and trying to get a hand on the ball to prevent a completion, and the Chiefs have fourth down. This is really just a great individual effort by Jack Jones, kind of anticipating what he thinks is going to happen, getting inside, and now you can see it from here. It just makes this catch very difficult for Hopkins. He's very physical there, leading to the incompletion. So right there is 4 points off the board. Instead of being able to get a touchdown, the Chiefs have to settle for a field goal due to that great individual effort from Jack Jones. And it's an unsuccessful red zone trip without being able to get the touchdown. For our next sliding doors moment, we're going to jump ahead to 2:49 to go in the first quarter. Chiefs are moving the ball again, and they have a 1st and 15 at the Raiders' 32-yard line. They come out here in 12 personnel. Their two tight ends are Noah Gray, and this is Anthony Ferkser. Their running back is Isaiah Pacheco. So one running back, two tight ends gives you 12 personnel. Wide receivers are McCole Hardman and DeAndre Hopkins. And the Raiders end up running a cover one man, but they blitz. So they actually don't even have enough guys with their safety going deep. They don't even have enough guys to cover all the Chiefs' eligible receivers. And so you see here, this is their deep safety. They're going to bring both of these guys into blitz. So they're manned up here, manned up here, manned up here, and they've got a deep safety. So they don't have anyone accounting for either of these two if they leak out late. And initially, you'll notice Ferkser ultimately leaks out late. And look at him. We got all this green grass in front of him. But at this point, Mahomes has already had some pressure. And he looked over to his right immediately when the play started before his play action. At that point, Ferkser was blitzing. And then Mahomes is looking down the field. So he's not even aware. He hasn't kind of come this far into his progression. And part of the reason is he does have an open guy, so he's not worried as he comes around and has to step up into the pocket, and he's looking at Noah Gray's break right here. So you see Mahomes getting ready to throw right as Noah Gray is breaking on his route. Now, unfortunately, Mahomes appears to anticipate Gray breaking this route down the field, and Gray breaks it toward the sideline. So, but you see when he's throwing it, Gray hasn't completely established where he's breaking. He's already launching this ball. And so Mahomes ends up throwing it down the field. Look at Gray running horizontally still. He tries to adjust once he sees the flight of the ball, but it's too late at that point. He's not going to be able to catch up. And the ball falls harmlessly to the ground. You can see it here too. Like we said, it has dropped back. Mahomes looking over to Ferkser initially, but Ferkser's still blocking. By the time Ferkser leaks out with nobody on him, Mahomes is already downfield. Look, right when he hits the back of his drop, he's already getting pressure from Max Crosby. So he doesn't really have time to sit and survey and see somebody wide open on the right side. He's coming up. In his line of vision is Noah Gray about to make his break. And as you can see, Mahomes is starting to make this throw already as Gray is just starting his break. And he's anticipating Gray taking it farther down the field. But Gray had started breaking this way. So by the time he adjusts down there, there's just isn't the time. It's just two guys not being quite on the same page. And unfortunately, the ball falls harmlessly incomplete on a play that could have been a touchdown. The next sliding doors moment, unfortunately, comes on the very next play. So after that missed pass to Gray, we have 2nd and 15 at the 32-yard line. The Chiefs are in 12 personnel. They've got Kareem Hunt as the running back. The 2 tight ends are Noah Gray and Travis Kelce, and the 2 wide receivers are DeAndre Hopkins and Xavier Worthy. So the Chiefs are going to have Xavier Worthy come and run an out route. They've been using him more in the intermediate areas this year, as we talked about last week and this week. And this was another situation where they were looking for him. And let's watch the play develop here. So Worthy first brings his route in and then is going to break back out. So here he comes in. And the key here is to watch how he breaks out and watch Mahomes. He's looking over at Worthy, waiting for this to develop. As Worthy makes his break and Mahomes is you can see he's gearing to throw. And I want you to look at the angle at which Worthy's running here, especially this step that he's about to take. Look in which direction he's going. He appears to be going diagonally right here at this angle, which is what he's doing when Mahomes throws this ball. And then watch as he rounds it out, and he goes from what was more like this angle to now like this. But he kind of came at it like that. So when Mahomes throws the ball, he looks like he's going at this angle. And unfortunately, Mahomes throws the ball assuming he's going to continue more at that kind of angle. Let's watch it again. Mahomes is releasing the ball right here. He's cocking to throw. And look at the way that Worthy's going. Worthy is going like this. And then once Worthy is he's almost running parallel to the sideline now. So Mahomes has thrown this expecting a little more depth on that route, and the ball ends up sailing over his head. Had Worthy continued on this trajectory, that kind of diagonal, which would have led him straight toward the first down. Well, that wasn't a very straight line that I drew, but toward the first down marker instead of a couple yards ahead, this ball would have been right on target. And that's another unfortunate miss for the Chiefs. We can see it from the end zone view just how close this was to a completion. You can see it was just over Worthy's head. Had Worthy taken this 2 yards deeper, which is what I would argue is what it looks like he's going to do as he makes his break as Mahomes is going to throw this, then this is a first down. At this point, you probably guessed that the next sliding doors moment is again the very next play. Unfortunately, the Chiefs got a pre-snap penalty, and so it went from 3rd and 15 to 3rd and 20. And here come the Chiefs lining up at 3rd and 20. On this play, Mahomes takes the snap, and he gets fairly quick pressure as Wanya Morris gets beaten toward the inside. He feels this pressure coming, and he bails out to the right. It's a bit too bad because the way things were set up, you do wonder if he had doubled back and tried to go left, if he would have had a little more time since this end was inside. But I guess, Crosby wasn't inside on the other side. He was kind of inside as well, but Crosby managed to detach and take a pretty good angle to run down Mahomes and force him to not be comfortable making a throw. To his credit, Justin Watson ended up uncovering down the field beyond the first down marker, and Mahomes tried to get it to him. It's a pretty tough throw, and he wasn't able to keep it in bounds. I mean, it's a very tough throw, although it is a throw that Mahomes has made before, but he wasn't able to make it here. So here you can see Wanya Morris just getting walked back immediately. Mahomes feels this pressure and bails out. Unfortunately for him, Max Crosby sees it as it's coming and does a great job applying pressure here. Mahomes gets this throw off to Watson. He just isn't able to keep it in bounds. I mean, it's a tough throw, but we've seen Mahomes do crazy things like this before. unfortunately, if Watson had gotten this ball even just like another 2 feet in but toward the field, he might have been able to keep feet down and make this a catch. But unfortunately, it was incomplete. The Chiefs ended up having to punt on this drive because they got moved back with this penalty. They have a new kicker, Matthew Wright. So we went from first down where if Mahomes had hit that pass to Gray, if they had been on the same page, that could have been a touchdown. Instead of 7 points, the Chiefs get 0 from this drive after 3 straight plays that, had they gone a little differently, would have at the very least continued this drive into the red zone, or at the best could have resulted in a touchdown. Now we're going to jump to a minute to go in the second quarter. The Chiefs are trying to run a 2-minute drill here. They're up 10-3 at this point, and they are trying to get points before the half. This is the first play of their 2-minute drill with 1 minute left. And on this play, the Raiders end up running a 0 blitz. So as you see here, here are the rushers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All 7 of these guys are going, so you just have 1, 2, 3, 4 guys covering 4. So against 0 blitz, the real thing is you need your hot routes, the guys that are going to get open quickly. There's conservative man coverage here because they're just trying to hold on until the rush gets home. So from Mahomes' perspective, he's got to get someone who he can get open quickly. And on this play, he does have 2 routes that end up opening up fairly quickly. First is Juju Smith-Schuster, who runs a whip route right here. He's open right away. The second is Justin Watson, who comes down and sits right here. Again, open right away while Mahomes still has the ball. Unfortunately, Mahomes is completely fixed on Kelce. He's trying to trust him to win, but Kelce runs a little bit of a longer developing route. And by the time Kelce makes his break and turns for Mahomes to anticipate it, unfortunately, it looks like Mahomes has kind of like given up on that route. He turns and sees Watson. So at this point, like the ball kind of, no matter what, the ball needs to get out by now. He's sitting back there. He's hit the back of his drop. He needs to release right now. He wanted something for Kelce, but Kelce is not, this being a hot route, I'm not sure if there was a miscommunication or misunderstanding from Kelce. Like Kelce really needs to do what Watson did on this play and literally just come here and sit. And you wonder if that's what Mahomes was expecting to happen. Because you see him gearing up to throw to Kelce right here. But Kelce's not looking, so he eats it and then starts to look for something else, and this is where the rush gets to him. He tries to step up as he's got a guy coming here, but the entire pocket collapses and he gets sacked. If he hadn't stuck on Kelce so long here when Kelce's not looking, if he had looked over to Juju or to Watson earlier, I think this is a completed pass. Or if Kelce, realizing the coverage, which he normally does, stops right here and just gives Mahomes a target, then you're looking at a 5 or 6 yard gain, you keep it moving. Instead, Mahomes gets sacked, and this ends up being a 5-yard loss, and they lose about 35 seconds on the clock, like trying to get everything set up after the sack and the next play. And they ended up on this 2-minute drill getting in a situation where they ran out of time and had to kick a 59-yard field goal, which in that weather with a new kicker signed off the street, Matthew Wright, wasn't able to get enough distance to make that kick. Had they had the extra 5 yards here, well, it wouldn't have just been 5 yards. A 5 not for the sack and then another 5 or 6 from a pass completion. It's an 11-yard difference, let's say. That makes it a 48-yard kick. And if with that 11-yard difference they had also saved some time, they might have been able to get even closer. So again, this is a situation where they might have lost out on 3 points because of this play going the way that it did. We now jump ahead to 9:48 to go in the third quarter. The Chiefs are still up 10-3, and they've got a 2nd and 9 at about the 13-yard line of the Raiders, trying to, again, punch it in the red zone. So this play actually ends up being an illegal formation on Jawan Taylor. He's lined up a little deep. So the rule is that your head has to be parallel to at least the belt line of the center. And Taylor is a little back here. So this ends up being an illegal formation. So even if the Chiefs had a positive play, this would have come back. But even worse, interestingly, maybe partially because Taylor was lined up so deep, he gets beat inside by a spin move by Max Crosby, who completely collapses the pocket and forces Mahomes to bail. And to make matters worse, as Mahomes is trying to run out of this, he drops the ball and ends up having to dive on it. It ends up being a sack and loss of 17 yards, completely scuppering any chances that the Chiefs had of scoring a touchdown on this drive, forcing a third and extremely long. So again, you can see here, there's a big gap between Taylor and Smith, and you wonder if part of this is because Taylor had been lined up too far deep. Crosby with a nice spin move to the inside, and he's got Mahomes cornered. Crosby actually goes down, which would have been nice if Mahomes hadn't dropped the ball. So he had to dive on it and take a big loss. And again, the Chiefs in the red zone, by virtue of losing 17 yards on this play, make it impossible to score a touchdown. They end up getting 10 yards back on third down so that they're in reasonable field goal range, and they kick a field goal to go up 10-3. Now we're at 3:20 to go in the third quarter. The Chiefs are up 13-3, and they have a 3rd and 3 at the Vegas 17-yard line, again in the red zone. This time, again, the Raiders run a zero blitz. They were very aggressive. They didn't run a lot of these too deep coverages. They ran single high, and then they ran zero. And so here you got all these guys coming. So again, like we talked about earlier, the big thing is your hot receiver. Somebody's got to get open quick. You only need 3 yards on this play. And their initial guy who one could have considered hot was Juju. They ran a pick for him here. They had Gray come in, Juju run out. His defender is way up there. So a quick throw to the flat here, and Juju probably has a chance to run he just needs to get here for the first down. But Mahomes dropping back, sees Kelce against zero. He steps back and tries to step through and fire this, and look at where Kelce is when Mahomes is trying to run it. He's coming in this direction as the ball is coming out, and he's probably making the decision where to throw it right about here. Kelce's breaking this way. Well, unfortunately, in Kelce's scramble drill mode, he veers around, and the throw falls harmlessly to the ground. Instead of continuing on his trajectory, which could have led him to throw, he actually just bent it around that way. The throw comes in this direction. It's another situation that's just not quite on the same page. And you have another situation where 7 becomes 3, and the Chiefs lose a potential 4 points. Here's the blitz. Mahomes wants... So he's actually... Who is he looking at initially? It looks like he's looking to his right. Is he looking over... I wonder what he wants here initially. Is he looking at Gray? Maybe he was thinking about just throwing this into Gray. It's interesting that he was looking to his right and not considering Juju. Well, he didn't. It doesn't look like he went all the way over, but he actually gets to Kelce late. I didn't realize this. He gets to Kelce pretty late because Kelce is starting over here. You can see Kelce enter the frame right here, right? And Mahomes' eyes are still in this kind of direction from back here. So Mahomes looking over there, and then this is right when he sees Kelce, right? He comes back and he throws it, but Kelce at this point is double back. But then the question is, if he's looking over at the right, what is he seeing? Unless he's looking at the rush, because you would think... I'm guessing he's considering whether to make this throw. Because with this route combination and this defender high, you do wonder, the conservative thing to do right here would have been right now unless he doesn't trust Juju to like spin around and make this catch, or he doesn't feel like looking back quickly enough to make that throw to Juju right as he comes underneath here, because the safety has a long way to close to prevent him from getting to like, he needs to essentially get to the 14-yard line, which is right there. But I guess he was looking at Gray. That's the only thing that makes sense here. He's looking at Gray, then he feels the rush and steps up to Kelce, but unfortunately, right as he's throwing it to Kelce, Kelce veers around. Not on the same page. Ball falls to the turf. Again, the Chiefs get 3 instead of 7. Situation where instead of going up 16-3, they could have gone up 20-3. Would have really felt different at this stage of the game. Although one could argue, and really should argue, that they should have held a 16-3 lead and not made it so hairy at the end in any case. Our next sliding doors moment comes near the end of the third quarter. 25 seconds to go in the third quarter. At this point of the game, the Chiefs had been up 16-3, and then they gave up a huge kick return, followed by a 2-play touchdown drive, and suddenly the Raiders had life. The game became 16-10, and the Chiefs offense got back on the field and was faced with a 3rd and 11. This is the key time to try to move down and score points and prevent this from snowballing. They had been kind of controlling this game to this point, had been up 16-3, and points on this drive, particularly a touchdown on this drive, might help to quell the boost that the Raiders had gotten here. But they were in 3rd and 11 quickly and really needed a first down to get this drive going. Mahomes drops back to throw. And as he hits the back of his drop, he doesn't like what he sees. Hits the back of his drop, nobody's open here. They're trying to get Hopkins across the field here. And Mahomes, unfortunately, this time seems to run himself into a little bit of pressure. So as he drops, the Raiders have a late stunt from their defensive tackle over here, who sweeps around, and that is unfortunately exactly where Mahomes runs himself. I think he's feeling a little bit, maybe I'm being a little hard on Mahomes. He's feeling a little bit of Crosby getting around the edge here, which might be contributing to why he bailed left. But because he bailed left, he invited further pressure on this side, and so he's not able to get to sit and wait, which was unfortunate. If this pocket had been clean, Travis Kelce just completely drops his defender with a nice cut here and goes to the sideline. So Kelce was wide open here if Mahomes had been able to make a throw. But at this point, Mahomes is running for his life. And he managed to step through Crosby. And as Hopkins comes over here, he then doubles back and gets open right as Mahomes, as a last gasp effort, sees him and throws the ball over to him. And actually, Hopkins is right there and inexplicably drops the pass. Very rare for DeAndre Hopkins, who, weirdly enough, I had tweeted pretty soon before this that DeAndre Hopkins' hands are unreal. He just always seems to come up with catches. But for whatever reason, in this crucial moment, he dropped that one. If this one, he had gotten a first down, maybe the Chiefs can continue a drive down here and score. Instead, they ended up having to punt the ball back to the Raiders, up only 16-10. Now let's see it from the end zone view. Again, so Mahomes drops back, and he's feeling, I think I shouldn't have said he needlessly bailed out. He definitely was feeling pressure, but the Raiders did a good job accounting for this. He sees that here and tries to navigate back to the middle. Actually does a great job escaping the pressure, and then has a last gasp chance to get it over to Hopkins, and Hopkins dropped it. I never would have believed it, and I doubt we'll see anything like it again because he's so sure-handed. But in this moment, Hopkins dropped it, and the Chiefs had to punt, only up 16-10. So now we jump ahead to 10:36 to go in the fourth quarter. The Chiefs are losing at this point. They're down 17-16. Their 16-3 lead has evaporated with 2 quick Raiders touchdown drives. And suddenly they're down by 1. And they've got a 3rd and goal right around the 5-yard line. Really trying to punch it in here. They're down 17-16, hoping to take a 23 or maybe even 24-17 lead with a touchdown here. Mahomes drops back out of the gun, and the Raiders are only rushing 3. They're really going max coverage. And even with that, Wanya Morris gets immediately beat around the edge, and Mahomes is sacked. Just has no chance on this play whatsoever. And the Chiefs are forced to kick a field goal. If you see here, the Raiders only rush 3, but Wanya right here gets beat immediately. Mahomes has no chance, just has to eat it for the sack. And the Chiefs are forced to kick a field goal to go up 19-17. Another situation where the Chiefs lost out on 4 potential points because they weren't even able to attempt really a 3rd down play with giving up the pressure and the sack so quickly. Now the final play of this sliding doors series of play comes with 2:09 to go in the 4th quarter. The Chiefs have a 19-17 lead, and they have a 3rd and 2. Basically, with 2:09 to go, the Raiders have no timeouts. If the Chiefs get a 1st down, they end the game. Knowing that the 2-minute warning is in 9 seconds, they don't really have to run the ball here, because the most time they can take off the clock is 9 seconds. So they actually run a shot play here. They make it look, they run a play action look. They're in a very heavy set. This is actually 13 personnel. Kingsley Suamataia is eligible as a 3rd tight end. So essentially they have 3 tight ends and 1 running back, which gets you 13 personnel. And their lone wide receiver, Xavier Worthy, and he's the only person they send out on a pass pattern. They run the play action, they have a 9-man protection to block, and they just send Worthy deep. They get him open, but they're just not able to connect. Mahomes slightly overthrows this ball, and the Chiefs end up punting the ball back to the Raiders to give them a chance to come down the field. Here it is again. Mahomes throws this out there for him, and they're just too far out for him, and they're not able to connect. It's an incomplete pass. Completing that one would have iced the game. I mean, if you hit him in stride, it might have been a touchdown, but regardless, even if he caught it at any point, that would have ended the game, and they wouldn't have had to have that crazy sequence at the end where the Raiders lost a fumble due to a snap error, and the Chiefs ended up sealing the game that way. Now let's talk Wanya Morris and his performance in this game against the Raiders. Wanya Morris struggled in this game and was eventually benched toward the end. The Chiefs ended up moving Joe Thuney to left tackle and bringing in Mike Caliendo to play left guard for Joe Thuney at the end of the game. And it was due to the struggles that Wanya Morris was having during this game, which, if you remember, the game that Wanya Morris really struggled in last year was also at home against the Raiders. That's a game that led Donovan Smith to come back into the lineup for the rest of the season. But let's look at Wanya Morris and what was going on during this game. And we'll start with this clip from 9:49 to go in the 2nd quarter, with the Chiefs having a 3rd and 10 in a 3-3 ball game at this point. So we'll watch Wanya, and he's matched up against Kelce Chason, who he did play against for most of this game. So Chason gets out wide, and Wanya Morris, this is kind of strategically what he was doing, unfortunately, consistently during the game. There are a lot of instances that we'll show here of him using this exact same technique through the game. As the rushers were trying to get around him, he would use his outside hand, his left hand, and try to punch to the chest, like right in the middle of the chest of the rusher. And what Kelce Chason does here is he just swipes his hands entirely. He just gets around him, swipes the hands, and then comes right around the corner. And part of the reason that's possible is Wanya is not taking that shallow of a drop. So he's not, or not that deep of a drop. It's a somewhat shallow drop. Goes with that left hand in a way that Chaison's completely ready for. Swiped off and gives up the sack around the corner. Let's see it again from here. So we're watching over here. Watch how Morris goes with his left hand, tries to get it right into the chest, right? But Chaison's ready for it. He swipes with both hands across that arm, gets it off of him, and uses that motion with kind of a jump to get around and right to the quarterback for a big sack there. Let's go a little earlier in the game. This is 12:53 to go in the first quarter. This ends up being a completion to Travis Kelce, but let's not focus on the play as a whole, but instead look at Wanya Morris and his technique here. So again, at the snap, watch him again try to get his left hand. You can see he's doing the exact same thing we pointed earlier. He's using his left hand in the chest, and again he gets his hand swiped across and he gets beaten around the edge. This time Mahomes is able to cut in through the B gap and buy himself a little more time. But Morris is getting beaten in the exact same way. This is a little earlier than the clip we showed you, and Chaisson again is way out wide here. He's approaching from a wide angle, and we can see it again what Morris ends up doing. There it is, that left hand. And to be fair, Chaisson does jump off sides on this play. But the technique is what's the important thing here. And it's the same thing. The left hand toward the center, hand swiped. And this time, because Mahomes steps up, Morris is just enough able to guide him around the arc. And you wonder if Chaison's jumping off sides helped with that too. He was a little deeper than he would have been. And Mahomes is able to get a throw off and complete for a first down. But again, the same technique from Wanya Morris we saw earlier, and the same strategy to combat it successfully by Chaisson. Now we're at 5:55 to go in the first quarter, and this time instead of Chaisson, he's got Tyree Wilson lined up across from him. And Tyree Wilson tries to rush with power rather than speed. But if you notice, Wanya still does the same kind of thing here. It's hard to see from this view, but we'll get over to the end zone view. He's again using his left hand to get right into the center of the chest of the rusher. So watch Wanya, and specifically watch his left hand and that hand placement. So even against a power rush, he's doing the same thing. He's getting that left hand right into the center of the chest. So this is where the speed rusher Chaisson was just swiping that hand away and getting around the corner. This time it's power, and Wanya does what's called losing slowly in this situation, or dying slowly, I think is the way they phrase it. You know, you die slowly, that's fine, because you give your quarterback enough time to make a play, but Mahomes is still not able to step up into this throw because Wanya gets pushed back into his lap. But the noteworthy thing to me here is the technique. He's using the same technique every time, and it's predictable. And I think you saw as the game went along, the Raiders felt pretty comfortable, especially Chaisson, knowing what to do against him because they felt pretty comfortable knowing what Wanya was going to be doing in his pass set. Now we're still in the first quarter, this time against Max Crosby. 2:49 to go in the first quarter, and let's look at Wanya Morris's pass set. Again, he's doing the same thing he did before. The same idea of the left hand punch right to the center of the chest. Crosby swipes him a little bit with his right hand, but even without a massive swipe like Chaisson was doing, he's still able to get around. Fortunately, Mahomes is able to step up here, and Wanya is able to do enough to push him around the arc so that Crosby's not able to significantly alter Mahomes' throw here. But again, it's the same technique, and we can look at it again in more detail. Here's Wanya Morris right here. Crosby gets out wide. And look, it's the same thing. Left hand right into the chest. And Crosby doesn't have much of an issue kind of keeping his distance from Wanya, so he's not able to get a strong punch into his chest. And then just discarding his hand. But fortunately, Wanya does enough to keep depth so that Crosby is not able to significantly alter Mahomes' throw or pressure him. Now here from 3:20 to go in the fourth quarter. Again, Wanya is back up against Chason here. This was on a zero blitz. And look again at Wanya's technique. Same thing. The left hand right to the center gets swiped away fairly easily. Wanya does a good job of pushing him around the corner. And I think one of the reasons he's able to is if you look at him here, he takes a much deeper pass set than we had seen earlier. He actually gets good depth here. So when Chason is able to swipe him, when you're shallow, you can corner quicker and get into the quarterback. But when Wanya gets more depth, it forces him to come around, and it's easier for Wanya to force him behind the pocket, which is what he was able to do here. Run him around the arc behind the pocket and prevent him from influencing the throw. But again, technique-wise, here's Wanya here that we're going to examine. Watch that left hand right to the center of the chest, right there. And Chason is ready for it, and he's using the same move over and over. He's just jumping, swat, but this time Wanya's depth helps him to prevent Chason from influencing this throw. Now we move to 10:36 to go in the fourth quarter. This is a third down and goal for the Chiefs. At this point, down 17-16. And look at Wanya. Again, they have Chason lined up way out wide. And when he has to deal with that width, again with the same technique, takes a shallower set, tries to get that hand to the center of his chest. Chason swipes around and gets the sack so quickly that there is no chance for Mahomes to do anything with this play. Here on this side, we can see Wanya Morris. Drops back. There's that left hand right to the center of the chest. And look, Chason's waiting for it. Does the same move. Comes around. Gets the sack. And you can see Mahomes is extremely frustrated at this point. And it was after this play that the Chiefs ended up benching Wanya Morris, bringing in Mike Caliendo to play left guard and moving Joe Thuney out to left tackle. It was a rough outing for Wanya Morris. Let's see what the left tackle position holds for the Chargers game. The Chiefs have obviously signed DJ Humphries already at this point, so we'll see if he's going to be ready to go against the Chargers. If he's not, then it'll be interesting to see what the answer is for the Chiefs, whether they'll go back to Wanya Morris, whether they'll try Thuney out at left tackle, whether they would give Kingsley Suamataia another chance after his rough outing against Denver. Tough to say, but it looks like if he's going to be able to make it happen, DJ Humphries is going to be the answer this year based on how the Chiefs have been treating this position. Time will tell if and when he gets that opportunity, and we'll see how he does with it. We're at 15 minutes to go in the second quarter. The Chiefs are up 3-0, and the Raiders are facing a 3rd and 3 at their own 28-yard line. The Raiders come out here in what looks like 11 personnel. Got a running back. Brock Bowers is the tight end, and I think they've got 3 wide receivers out here. So that gives you 11 personnel, and the Chiefs have matched this by they're in a nickel set, but interestingly, Nick Bolton is not on the field. So this might have been, I didn't actually go back and check this. This might have been Nick Bolton briefly. He'd gotten a knee to the groin and he missed a little bit of time. I wonder if this coincided with that time, because it's extremely rare for the Chiefs to have multiple linebackers on the field and Nick Bolton not be one of them. So what the Chiefs end up doing is they try to run an overload blitz. So they're going to blitz Leo Chanel and then blitz Trent McDuffie from the slot and then drop back Charles Omenihu. Remember about the McDuffie blitz, when they have receivers in condensed splits, meaning they're closer to the line of scrimmage, they're not lined up out wide, Spagnuolo is much more likely to blitz the corner because there's less ground to cover to get to the quarterback. So because they run this overload blitz, they are manned up over here, man to man. Tranquil has Bowers, and Roland Wallace is manned up over here. Then they have one safety over the top, Brian Cook. Charles Omenihu actually ends up dropping off to try to help an underneath route because it's 3rd and 3, so they're assuming that the Raiders are going to have something hot. Well, the Raiders don't. They run 9-8-9. 9 route. This ends up being a 9 route, and then they've got the post in the middle. Bowers helps block. He helps take McDuffie's blitz, and then he leaks out into the flat. So let's watch this develop. So here, Omenihu is coming to bail to try to help kind of any quick route. We got manned up, and single high safety. Now, the thing that's odd about this play is Nazeeh Johnson's playing this 9 route underneath. That makes it seem like one of two things. He almost is playing as if he has some kind of flat responsibility, but there's nobody coming out into the flat at all. Or that he thinks he has safety help over the top, which, I mean, there's one single high safety, so playing that way in this situation doesn't make much sense. I guess if Chamari Connor didn't have to carry this post route deep, it's possible that Connor could have helped top this route, but in this scenario, Connor can't do that. He has to carry this route deep. If, this guy had run like a hitch or a drag or something, then maybe Omenihu would have stayed under it and Connor could have helped over here. But in this case, Nazeeh Johnson's got to be running with this receiver, it's Jakobi Meyers. So there appears to be some misunderstanding on Johnson's part as far as his responsibility here, and he just gets beat deep. Connor notices the throw. He sees the throw and tries to wheel back and help out, but he gets there too late. Nazeeh Johnson tries to close ground, and actually, to his credit, gets pretty close. If you see there, if he had been playing this a little closer, he would have been able to knock this ball down. But he just lets Jakobi Meyers get too much depth on him, and he ends up giving up a 43-yard gain here. See it from this perspective. You won't get an idea of Johnson, but you will be able to see how well the Raiders picked up this blitz. So again, the rushers are going to be 1, 2, 3. Here's a blitz. And then McDuffie's going to come from off the screen, and then Omenihu's going to drop back. And even though it's kind of an overload to the Raiders' right, they pick it up really well. Abdullah hits the blitzing Chanel. Bowers engages McDuffie long enough before leaking out to give O'Connell time to throw over. And you can see that Nazeeh Johnson got close, but ultimately it's unclear why he was playing this play the way that he did. And it led to a big gain for the Raiders and got them into field goal range. All right, here we are with 2:19 to go in the second quarter. It's a 3-3 game, and the Chiefs have 3rd and 4 at the Vegas 6-yard line. They've already moved the ball pretty deep in Vegas territory twice in the first half, and they've come out with a total of 3 points. So points are at a premium at this point. Still a tie game. Chiefs are looking for a touchdown. They come out here in 12 personnel. Their one running back is Samaje Perine. Noah Gray and Travis Kelce are the 2 tight ends. And then their wide receivers are Justin Watson right here and DeAndre Hopkins right here. What the Chiefs end up trying to do is they are going to run Watson on an over route. Kelce is going to run a parallel, even though those 2 lines that I drew are not parallel, over route over here. And then Hopkins is going to run in at the goal line. The Raiders essentially are going to play man with 2 underneath like buzz defenders. So this will be underneath zone here, man right there. And then what they're going to do is they're going to have Watson manned here. And these two are actually going to combine to double Travis Kelce. So watch the routes develop. Oh, and I should have mentioned that we've got a man on Pirine here. So here, Hopkins manned up, Watson manned up, and these two are going to man up Kelce. So you've got underneath defender. Now, Mahomes ends up having to make a decision quickly because Wanya Morris loses very quickly here, right around the edge. And so Mahomes drops back right into pressure. And as he goes, he sees Justin Watson coming across and decides to throw one up there and give Watson a chance to go get it. I mean, this is an awesome throw considering how he gets like nailed right as he throws it. And Watson also does a great job, really strong hands, because if you see, Jack Jones actually comes down over the top with his right hand and really punches down at this ball. And Watson does a great job of hanging on to it for a big touchdown there for the Chiefs. So now watch it from this perspective. Mahomes looking down the middle the whole way, senses his pressure. He sees Watson, so he's going to give him a chance. Look at him getting crushed there. I mean, throws a great accurate ball even though he gets hit. And then look at the hands from Watson. You see Jones come right over the top and try to punch that ball out. Watson does a great job hanging on to it for the touchdown, and the Chiefs go up 10-3. Now we're at 11:51 to go in the fourth quarter. Chiefs are down 17-16, and they have a 3rd and 5 at the Vegas 25-yard line. The Chiefs come out here lined in 11 personnel. This is one running back, Samaje Perine, one tight end, Travis Kelce, and they've got 3 wide receivers, Justin Watson, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Xavier Worthy. They're going to run Watson across in jet sweep motion before the snap, and they run the following route combination. They've got Watson come out and clear out to go deep. Then they have Juju Smith-Schuster essentially coming straight through. And then they run a mesh concept with Travis Kelce as the picker, and Xavier Worthy is who this play is designed for. And so they actually have 2 different contingency plans to pick for Xavier Worthy here against man coverage. Starting off, this is Worthy's man right here, and Juju starts by just picking him off immediately in his route. This is well done from Juju because it's not offensive pass interference if the contact occurs within 1 yard of the line of scrimmage. So when you have a defender in a press position and you're the guy on the line of scrimmage, even if it's not your defender, you can run right into him and help free up the guy who is trying to go. So the fact that the defender was in press allowed Juju to just nail him right there and give Worthy a free path. Now, in case they made a switch, and this defender wasn't going to guard him anymore, like if you watch, this defender is going to end up chasing and trying to run with Worthy. So Juju's pick has already worked and he's going to be free. But sometimes when a defender gets pushed off, like they switch responsibility and will try to get somebody else to run with him. And just in case that happened, you can see Kelce is out here ready to pick off anybody who comes in the way. He ends up not having anything to do, but you can see his role in this mesh route is to just get in the way, run interference, so that Worthy can get through free. So they have 2 levels here to try to get Worthy free. 1, Juju, which is ultimately the one that succeeded, and then 2, Kelce, in case that didn't succeed. And the end result is Worthy running completely free on his drag route. Mahomes finds him, and he gets a big 19-yard gain on 3rd and 5, giving the Chiefs 1st and goal inside the 10. There is Watson going, and he's the one that's going to just go right up the field and clear out. Mahomes drops back. He's looking for Worthy all the way. And you can see the pick right here by Juju, initiated within 1 yard of the line of scrimmage. Mahomes ends up having Worthy wide open, and they get a big gain here for a 1st down. We're now in the first play of the fourth quarter. The Raiders have a 1st and 10 at their own 42-yard line. They're currently down 16-10, and they're just coming off a sequence where they'd had a big kick return. It took them 2 plays to get in the end zone to make it 16-10. They then forced a Chiefs 3 and out, got the ball back, and this is their second play on their next drive, trying to come down and now with an opportunity to score to take the lead. So the Raiders come out in 12 personnel. They've got 1 running back and they've got 2 tight ends here and then 2 wide receivers. The Chiefs have matched here in base personnel. So since there are 2 tight ends, the Chiefs are in base with 3 linebackers and 4 defensive backs. The Chiefs end up playing cover 1 man and they end up blitzing a linebacker. So their deep safety is Brandon Cooks and they blitz Leo Chanel. So they're rushing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Tranquil is responsible for the running back and Bolton is responsible for the inside tight end. So the Raiders start by running a jet motion. And so they end up passing off responsibilities here. So what it looks like might actually be the case on this initial play call is that Joshua Williams is guarding him and the outside tight end is actually Brandon Cooks. And I'm guessing Reed would be the deep safety in this alignment. But what happens is Tucker goes in motion. So now Williams takes the outside tight end. Cook becomes the deep safety. And Reed becomes responsible for the jet sweeping Tucker. So what they do is they run deep crossers. Deep crosser here. Deep crosser there. This tight end stays in the block. The running back will leak out late. And Tucker is going to take his jet sweep and convert it to a deep route down the sideline. So let's watch this in action. He converts it to a deep route down the sideline up here. And it really looks like Justin Reed is not prepared for Tucker's speed, especially because he's got a running start. And he doesn't respect his speed enough to get enough depth quickly on this route. And Tucker ends up running right by him. Reed ends up stumbling in his attempt to keep up with him. And Tucker just makes a catch here and goes right down the sideline for a touchdown. All of a sudden, I really think it was just 4 offensive plays sandwiched around a Chiefs 3 and out. The Raiders went from being down 16-3 to getting a 17-16 lead. So again, they set it up by having him run a jet sweep motion and just go straight up the field. And it really looks like Reed just wasn't ready for how fast he was. You can see it here from the end zone cam. Again, you can see the change in responsibility. It looks like Williams was going to be guarding him. Cook was going to be taking a tight end. And Reed was going to be deep. So they ended up, you see them communicating the change of responsibility as the jet sweep comes across. And there's the throw. Reed has already fallen down at this point, and the Raiders get a touchdown. Now, this play might look familiar to some Chiefs fans. Maybe the Raiders were even scouting the Chiefs when they decided to use this play. And to see where we might have seen this before, let's go back to when the Chiefs and Raiders played in 2022. This plays from week 18 of the 2022 season. The Chiefs were playing in Vegas, and they needed a win to clinch the 1 seed. This is the second play of the game. The Chiefs here had a 2nd down and 5, I believe. And they line up in this formation. They've got 3 tight ends on the field. So this ends up being 13 personnel. Here's your 1 running back, Pacheco. There's Travis Kelce, 1 tight end. This is Blake Bell and Noah Gray. So they end up with 3 tight ends here on the field, and their 1 wide receiver is Justin Watson. Now look, Justin Watson comes across the formation, Travis Kelce ends up running an over. Noah Gray runs a deep over. And Justin Watson takes a jet sweep down the field. The same route combination that we saw the Raiders do in the game this week. Mahomes hits Justin Watson going down the sideline, and this ends up being a 67-yard gain that sets up the Chiefs' first touchdown in what ultimately would be a blowout. But again, look at the route combination, so similar. You've got Kelce going across, Gray going across, Watson going down the field from that jet sweep action. We can see it here from the end zone view. There goes Watson. The only difference here being that the Raiders were running a zone defense instead of man. But there's Mahomes hitting Watson going down the sideline. I mean, those plays look so similar. You gotta feel like the Raiders had to have been using that route combination for a reason, right? Maybe it's just coincidence that the Chiefs did the same thing to the Raiders just 2 years ago, but I'm gonna guess probably not. In any case, it was a nice play. It worked for the Chiefs against the Raiders, and it worked very well for the Raiders against the Chiefs this Black Friday. All right, let's talk about this, the play that everybody's been talking about from the Chiefs-Raiders Black Friday football game. Let's start by setting the scene. The Raiders had a 2nd and 3 at the Chiefs' 32-yard line, and they spiked the ball with 16 seconds left on the clock. So here we are, clock stopped, full play clock, and the Raiders appear to take a while to get their play in, and we'll see this on the broadcast view a little bit later in this video. But they take so long that on the broadcast view, you can see Aiden O'Connell starting to tell the play in the huddle with 12 seconds left on the play clock, which is especially crazy because the communication between the coaching staff and the quarterback's helmet ends at 15 seconds. So I'm not sure if he just never got the play call relayed in or he just got it so late that he wasn't able to start relaying it to the team until there were 12 seconds left. Anyway, because of that, the Raiders are extremely hurried coming up to the line. And you can see they're so hurried that the operator of this All-22 camera isn't even ready. They're like zooming out and trying to get everything together as the Raiders are hurrying up to the line. And it's kind of hard to see here. Again, we'll see it later on the future views, but Aiden O'Connell right here is clapping his hands. And so what ends up happening is he's clapping his hands, and the right guard, who is the one who signals to the center for the snap in the silent count, he interprets that as Aiden O'Connell calling for the snap. So he taps the center, which is the signal that the center needs to snap the ball. So the center snaps the ball. The problem is that the wide receivers, especially the one that's important is the one over here, but both wide receivers are not set at the snap. So that results in a penalty. But the reason why I'm saying the one over here is more important is because that's what Aiden O'Connell notices, and that's why he's not ready for the snap. He had clapped his hands trying to get the team to hurry up to the line. He's not expecting the snap. He doesn't see the tap because he's looking over at this receiver hoping for him to get set. But since the guard interpreted the clapping of the hands as like, hey, let's get the snap, he tapped the center snapped the ball. O'Connell wasn't ready for it. The ball bounced off his shoulder and ended up bouncing around, and Nick Bolton dove on it. So that's step one, kind of what happened on this play. Now let's go into what the penalty is. So the Raiders receivers were not set. By definition, by rule, this is an illegal shift penalty. If your players are not set for at least 1 second, all 11 players don't get set for at least 1 second before the snap, this is an illegal shift. The illegal shift is not a dead ball penalty. So that means that the result of the play will stand and you can decline the penalty if you are the defense. One of the things that people noticed was the official comes in here and is signaling the false start hand motion. And so people went back into the rule book and noticed that in the last 2 minutes of the first half or of the game, a failure to get set illegal shift penalty converts to a false start. And the reason why they point this out, why that's important, is because that would be a dead ball penalty, which would mean the play doesn't stand. But there is one added bit, if you actually read the rule book, is that this only happens if the clock is running. But like I said earlier, the Raiders had spiked the ball on the previous play. The clock was dead. So that exception where it converts to a false start does not apply. This is still an illegal shift penalty, and therefore the Chiefs were able to decline it and take the result of the play, which was a fumble recovered by the Chiefs. Let's see it over here, because the end zone view kind of gives you a different, better view, I should say, of what's going on from Aiden O'Connell's perspective. So here you can see what I was talking about earlier, him clapping his hands to try to get everyone to get set. There he is, clapping his hands, saying, let's go, let's go, let's go. And you can actually hear it on the broadcast view, which, like I said, we're going to check into in a minute. Now, O'Connell, after clapping his hands, is looking around. He's first looking at this receiver, and then I told you on the other view that he looks over at that receiver. And this is where he's looking. And you can see the guard right here. He heard the clapping of the hands. He thought that means let's snap the ball, so he taps the center. That's the center's signal in the silent count, so he snaps the ball. O'Connell is not looking. He's looking over at his receiver, who's still not set. So the ball hits him on the shoulder and comes down. He tries to recover it, but it actually kicks off of his left tackle's leg and shoots out to where Nick Bolton is able to dive on it right here. It's kind of hard to see, but the ball's right over there. So Nick Bolton's able to dive on the ball here and recover it for the Chiefs. Now, so we talked about why this is not a false start penalty, right? Because even though it's in the last 2 minutes, the illegal shift only converts to a false start if the clock were running. But the clock was stopped in this situation, so it's an illegal shift penalty that the Chiefs are able to decline, and they're able to keep the result of the play. Now, another thing people were saying online was, well, since this ref thought that it was a false start right here, they had blown the play dead. And so they should have then stopped the play and not counted the result and given the ball back to the Raiders. Well, that's simply not true. If you listen to the broadcast view, you can hear the referees blow the whistle. They clearly blow the whistle after the Chiefs have recovered the ball. They never blew this play dead. And let's actually play the broadcast version with audio so that you can see it yourself and hear that the play was never blown dead in this situation.
With a broken thumb, has no chance other than to work his mind to stay sharp in this game and flawlessly moves this offense into field goal range.
It would be a 50-yard field goal from here. Drops it. Flag is thrown though. Flag will stop it. 4 seconds went off the clock, but what is the call?
Ultimately, this play was a fumble by the Raiders, recovered by the Chiefs, and the refs got it right. It was an illegal shift. The play was blown dead only after the fumble was recovered, and the Chiefs got the ball and were able to decline the penalty. Wasn't the prettiest way for the Chiefs to win, and they definitely got lucky. But if you're really going to apportion blame on this play, I think it's got to be with the Raiders coaching staff. I'm not really sure how, after they had spiked the ball and had a full play clock with the clock stopped, they weren't able to get a play in and get set until the very end, which is what led to the confusion, the chaos, and the ultimate early snap by the center, which caused a penalty and a fumble, and which handed the Chiefs the win. Well, that's it for this week's film review. Thanks to all of you who watch us here on the YouTube channel, listen to us wherever you download podcasts, and or follow us at STCF715 on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. Next up from the film reviews, we will have a review of the Steelers-Bengals game from Week 13, so look out for that one. Thanks again to all of you, and until next time.